Hello and welcome to this thorough introduction to the SKOV BlueControl. In this video I would like to take a deep tour into the controller and show you what it's all about. The starting point here is the broiler version of the controller. So of course we have different versions depending on if you are growing broilers or broiler breeders or layers or pigs. They are all having the same basic structure. So you can all learn from the broiler version as I use as a starting point here, but I'll also show you the broiler breeder, the layer versions, and also the pig versions, just to show you the differences here. So here you see the front page of the broiler version, and the structure of the controllers are as follows. So we have the operation page, the front page, where you do all the daily work on the controller. Then you have a report page where you can build your own reports. So you can decide what do I need to report in the system, what are my daily reporting targets, and then you can build your own page according to that. Then you have the pause functions, which is basically what you use in between flocks or batches, where you can do the washing, the disinfection, drying, soaking, and so forth. I'll not go into details about these functions, but that is basically what you use when you have no animals in the house. Then you have the strategy section. I'll come back to that, but that's basically the recipe to manage your animals. We have the activity log. That's where you find all the alarms and what's been happening in the controller. So here you have all the active alarms. You can see all the ended alarms, operations, what's been going on, what adjustments have been made, all that sorts of stuff you can see in here. And you can also do it based on a certain period of dates. The settings. That's all the basic settings. A lot of this is for the service technician. I'll not go into details about that. It's very technical stuff, but it is also basic stuff about what software version are we working with, and also there are alarm settings where you can do the alarm settings to your likings, both for the climate alarms, but also for the specific production alarm with feed, water, and so forth. You can choose different languages up here. We have a lot of different languages in the controller, and it's just to choose the one that suits you well. We have the search icon here, and clicking that you will be able to find whatever you're looking for simply by entering, starting to enter the word you're looking for. So here you'll have a lot of suggestions, and hopefully you'll be able to find what you need. But I will dig more into especially the strategy page and also the operation page. So again, the operation page is where you do the daily work on the controller according to your animals. So here at the bottom we have the climate targets, the 3 climate targets here. First one being air quality. Also what we used to call minimum ventilation. It's called air quality because minimum ventilation is basically about securing a minimum quality of the air in your house. So you want to get rid of all excess gases like CO2, ammonia, even though you don't have a high temperature in the house. So that is the minimum ventilation in the house. The air quality can be based on a curve. So in this case here, it is based on a curve where it's ventilating in this particular time, 0.26 cubic meters per hour per animal. It can also be based on a CO2 sensor, and that's the strategic decision. I'll come back to later how you'll change that. But in this case, you have air quality, minimum ventilation based on a curve, but you can also monitor the CO2 level in the house and also the ammonia level in the house. And going into this card, you can of course do the adjustment, and you can have some history about the sensors you have installed to see the historical development of the gases. The next climate target here is the humidity. So here in the light blue we have a max humidity in the house, and here we have the current average humidity in the house. And nothing will happen until you get closer to the set point. So when you have the humidity set point set at 60%, then there will be no humidity ventilation until it reaches 50% ventilation. So when it reaches 50% ventilation and it starts to increase even more, humidity ventilation will slowly increase up to the 60% you have defined as a set point. And the max humidity ventilation is also defined in a curve, which I'll come back to. But you also have here the history of your humidity sensors, and you have the settings related to humidity. So you can enable, disable humidity control. But it's also here you have settings like in this scenario we have cooling installed. So here you can also define when should cooling stop because of high humidity, as we don't want bad litter quality. We have the type of ventilation you can also change here, and the max humidity ventilation on a curve, but here you can do an offset. So if you want to increase or decrease the current maximum humidity ventilation, you can do it in here. Humidification is also installed, so that limit is also here. And you can define, I only want to do humidification up to a certain day of age of my chickens. So that's also defined here. And you can switch humidity ventilation type on a certain day in your flock. And the last one here, adaptive reaction to ventilation, is basically if you want it to react faster or slower. If you think it's reacting too fast or too slow, you can indicate that here. So all related to humidity is in this card. The last card here is the temperature card. The light blue tag here indicates the temperature set point. And here we have the current temperature in the house. If you have more than one sensor, it's an average temperature of these sensors. And the last one here, the feels like, is the calculation of what your animals are actually experiencing, what experience temperature they're actually having right now. So the temperature set point is not necessarily your house target temperature, because the temperature set point is actually the temperature you want your animals to feel. At what temperature do they feel comfortable? And in this case, you have defined that when my animals feel 30.2, they're comfortable. But we have 31.4 in the house, which they feel 31.2 degrees. So they're slightly hot. And what's the difference here between the actual temperature of the house and what they are feeling, what they're experiencing? So if you click the card here, you come to this page, and again you see the set point. I want my animals to feel 30.2. When you experience a higher level of temperature, you have a lot of draft in the house and air speed in the house. So that draft will affect the experienced temperature of your animals. So because of that, we allow the temperature to increase a bit for the animals to still feel the 30.2 degrees. All this is done by the controller. It's calculating. And if you decide that they are too hot or too cold, you simply do an adjustment here, and the controller will figure out if it's the actual set point, the temperature set point, or if it's the temperature addition, in this case comfort, because it's in silent mode. It could also be a chill addition if it was in tunnel mode. But in any case, the controller will know if it's the set point, if it's the chill or comfort addition, or if it's a little bit of both. It depends on where you're at in the ventilation range. So don't worry about that. The controller will take care of it. Extra additions can be something like a day and night setback. In all circumstances, you can go here to set point plus additions, and then you can see what all the additions are about. So you're going to have the set point plus additions. You have the set point, you have the comfort addition, which is currently 0.3. And the extra addition in this case is ventilation boost, which is not activated, so it's 0 degrees. Going back to the main page here, again we see the current temperature in the house, but we also see the heating set point and also the cooling set point. So I can see clearly here At this point is 31.4 in the house, and when I reach 32.4, my cooling will start. And on the other hand, when I go down to 29.9, my heaters will kick off. So you always have that clarity about when what will happen. If you want to change the heat offset, for instance, you go here to house heaters, and then you can easily see, okay, I want them to start a little later, don't want to use as much heat. And here you can see now that the heating will start at a lower temperature. Same with cooling. You can also go and do the same adjustments about at what excess house temperature will my coolers start. You have more information. A lot of stuff is going on, a lot of calculations are done. So here in information you can get explanations about a lot of stuff, what's going on right now, why is it happening as it is. And again, with history, you see here for all the temperature sensors, you can go and see what's been going on the last 24 hours, last week, 3 weeks, 1 month, even 2 months back. You can go and see the development of the temperature sensors. Again, let's try to do an adjustment. I do an adjustment here to my birds are feeling a bit too cold, so do an adjustment. It puts a bit on the set point here, confirm. And now the set point is changed and the ventilation is adjusting, so that's why it's calculating a new feels like, because during this transition period that it takes a bit time for the ventilation to adjust according to your setting. And after 5 minutes, the feels like temperature will be back when the ventilation has settled in according to your adjustment. All right, we go to the next card here. The big blue one is the ventilation card. So this card compiles all information about ventilation. In this case here, we can clearly see that we are ventilating at 24.7%. So again, maximum of course is 100%, and part of that you see here, the main part of that is because of temperature. And here we see the CO2 icon. That is the small part that's because of the minimum ventilation. So the air quality minimum ventilation I talked about in this card here, that's a small part of the current ventilation, but we are also ventilating quite a lot because of high temperature in the house. So it will all the time show you how much it's ventilating and why it's ventilating. Up here you can see how much it's ventilating per animal at the current state. If we were in tunnel mode, it would clearly say here, tunnel mode, and it will show you the airspeed in the house, the calculation of the airspeed, 1.2 meters or whatever the current airspeed is. But in this scenario here, we're in side mode, and that's why we show the cubic meters per hour per animal. We also see how many groups that's turned on. It's not necessarily the number of fans, because a group can contain one fan, it could contain several fans. That's up to your specific system, but you can see how many groups are turned on at this particular time. You can see that the pressure in the house, if you have installed a pressure sensor, and you can also see how much your inlets are open. If you are in minimum ventilation or you're cycling, the card will change to show you the on time and the off time. And again, if you are in different modes, it could be natural ventilation mode, it could be free range mode, it could be heat recovery unit. This card is dynamic in a way where it will all the time show you what's relevant for you. It'll also show you if it's cooling. There will be a light blue tag here show you that it's cooling and how many percent. And also with heating, or if it's heating because of humidity, it will also show you that. So it's a dynamic card that all the time only shows you relevant information. Clicking the ventilation card here will bring you first of all to a house overview where you can see all your equipment, if it's on or off. And of course this house overview is editable, so you can go and place your equipment to your liking. You also have a similar one if you click here for sensors, where you have for all the climate sensors, you can place them on this card to your liking. And you can also go to the history curves from here to see the history of your sensors, climate sensors. Ventilation status here is status of your current ventilation. So this particular controller is a combi-tunnel controller, meaning it can ventilate both in side mode and in tunnel. So this card here will show you it's now in side mode and what needs to happen to go in tunnel. So you have that clear overview here. Also you can see that it's in side mode. We are ventilating 26.7 and it's because of air quality, and just 0.7% is because of air quality, and we are not ventilating because of humidity. All the ceramic equipment is to be managed from in here. So you have inlets, outlets, pressure sensor, so forth and so on. All the climate equipment here, and when you click it, you can go directly to the individual equipment. For instance, here you can take a side inlet, you can go and you can see the current status, but you can also put it in manual. For instance, during maintenance, if you need to put it in manual, put it here in manual mode, and then you can close it or open it or whatever you need. When you've done that, you will on the front all the time see this yellow bar here. It's simply to remind you that something is in manual. It's for safety reasons. So clicking this bar, imagine it's not you who've done it, you don't know what's in manual. You can just click this bar and then you can go to this page and then you can see whatever is in manual and then put it back into auto. And that's no matter what type of equipment you put into manual. Going back to the ventilation card here, you also have outlets, and again that functions the same way, where you can manage your fans. You can also see some history about ventilation, both in percent and in cubic meters per hour per animal, and in airspeed if it's a combi tunnel. So there are several settings in here. One thing I would like to highlight is the parking. So if parking is enabled, you can park a multi-step. Saying, for instance, if there are a group of fans or one fan you don't use during the winter, you can park it here and then put on the winter cover and make sure your controller will not start it while your winter cover is on. And the neat thing about this compared to the manual is that you will not have a bar here showing you that it's parked, because you have done it well knowing that you're not going to use it for a period of time. But when that spring day comes and it's hot, and you forget all about it, the controller will need the fan. You'll not turn it on, again, because you don't want it to, but it'll give you an alarm saying you need to unpark this fan because I need it to keep the temperature in the house. Then you can go take your winter cover off and unpark it, and the fan is good to go. All the climate equipment is in here. Pressure sensor, you can set the pressure set point, side cooling, again, to manage it manually. And there'll also be some few settings in here. Tunnel cooling, humidification, house heaters. I'll not go through the specifics, but just to let you know, if there's any specific things about the climate equipment, you need to find it in the ventilation card. Then we have a small house overview here to see if the temperature and humidity is uniform in the house. You can also add auxiliary sensors. You can add ammonia sensors and CO2 sensors, but the ammonia and CO2 sensor, of course, also you can also see the readings down here. But clicking this card will basically bring you to the large one where you can edit the house, as I showed you earlier. The middle card here is the program card. So here you can see that the feeding is on, the light is on at 30 lux, the water is on, and you have a 24 clock that's not currently on. Clicking this card will give you this overview of all your programs, but you can also go to the different types of equipment, for instance light, change the light settings, the feed settings. So everything that's on a program you can basically set in here. For instance, the 24 clocks is a relay that you can program to your liking. It can be whatever equipment. But here, for instance, you can say, okay, I want it to start at 6 in the morning, and it should have a duration of 1 hour. And I can make another timing saying, okay, I also want it to run from 9 to 10. And then you can program the 24 clocks to your liking. And and you have the overview here. Then we have the silo card. In this case we have 2 silos. We can have several, but in this scenario we have 2. You clearly see here the name of the silo, silo 1, the type of feed. It's also for you to define. In this case it's starter feed, and how much is in the silo, and how many days of feeding you have left based on the current consumption of feed. So that could be 2 days and 3 hours. It could be 3 hours, depending on how much your animals are currently eating. It will calculate how many days or hours there's left in the silo. Clicking the card will give you additional information. In these scenarios, we have electronic silo weighers, so it'll automatically know if delivery has been made and there's added feed in the silo. If you don't have electronic silo weighers, you need to go in here and add the amount of feed in the silos. But all that is done in here, and you can also, of course, change the type of feed in the house. You can create feed delivery logs in here, and also again, this is electronic silo weigher. Then you can do some manual adjustments in here. So everything to do with silos is combined in this card. The last card here is the production card. So I'm afraid that we don't have any real numbers in here because it's a simulator. But basically the graph here on the top is the dotted line is the reference, and the blue line is the actual performance 24 and 48 hours back. So you can compare the current consumption of feed or water or the animal weight with the actual reference in your controller. And you can choose what graph you want to see simply by clicking the feed or water or weight here to choose what graph you want to look at. In this scenario with weight, you can see how much my animals are actually weighing right now and how much they have gained or lost during the last 24 hours. And the same with feed consumption and water consumption. How much water have they consumed the last 24 hours, and how is that compared to the previous? So are they consuming more water or less water? And so the same with feed. If you look at the little arrow here, you can actually enter, you can click it directly, and here you can enter inspection weight. And that's quite important, because if you have animal weighers, they'll be quite accurate the first 3 weeks of the flock, if it's broilers we're talking about. But after that, the bigger birds will be less inclined to jump on the weigher than the smaller bird. So you need to do your manual weighings and then enter that number in here. And when you've done that, the correction factor in the controller will automatically adjust the weighings, so you're sure that you actually have an accurate data of the weighings of the weight of your animals. Another thing you can click directly here is mortality. So I've just picked up a lot of birds. So here I have 2 that's culled because they're small, some with leg problems, 2 with diarrhea. Confirm, that's it. Now I've entered the mortality for the day, and you also see here that the number of animals in the house is decreased. That also means that the minimum ventilation, the air quality ventilation here, will be recalculated based on the new number of animals in the house. Also, if you do thinning, you can do it right here. You see again this arrow here. You can go and move. Okay, I've moved 10,000 animals to the slaughter house. There you go. Now they're out of the house, moved to the slaughtery, and you have a little less than 15,000 birds left in the house. Again, the minimum ventilation will be recalculated, and you also see that this small amount of ventilation here will be smaller now that we have less animals in the house. If you click the card here, the production card, you come to all the productivity data. So you have the weighers here, you have the feed, the water per feed, hourly consumption, where you per hour can see how much have my animals been eating. And you also have the number of animals, so that's every time you start a new batch, you have entered here how many animals are in my house. Here you can also see how many have been added and removed. You see the 10,000 I removed just earlier. They are entered in here, so you can see the history of that. Mortality data you can see in here, and also daily gain, FCR and PEF. All the numbers will be available in here, so you all the time can keep track of your productivity if it's on target or if there's something you need to do. So all the productivity data and also some management, a little bit of management, for instance with the feed weighers, but mainly productivity data, you can all find it in the production card here. Up here in the corner you see the outside conditions, the temperature and humidity if the outside humidity sensor is installed. You also have a quick action line here that depends on what's installed, but you can stop the batch, you can start the catching program, both regarding the feed, if you want the feed to stop to make sure the feed line is empty when the catching is done, but also what type of ventilation do I want during the catching period. Inspection lights, I want to go and inspect my animals, so we can turn on the light for instance 20 minutes and define how much light should be there during that time. And again, I'll just show you, so if you start it you can clearly see it's on because it's blue here. And in this case we also have ventilation boost. Feel it's a bit dusty, you want to clear up the air before you go and inspect, for instance. You can make sure that you get a bit, you boost the ventilation to get rid of excess dust in the house. All right, so this captures the operation page, the main front page, where you do the adjustment, the daily adjustments during the batch. The next page I would like to draw your attention to here is the strategy page, because that's here you do all the strategic decisions. That is, it's not the settings you go and choose every day or every week. That's more my base settings. For instance, if you take air quality, I mentioned earlier you could decide if you want to do minimum ventilation based on the CO2 sensor or based on a curve. That's not something you go and change every day. That's a decision you make, and pretty much stick to this for a long time. So here you decide to do air quality control based on minimum ventilation or based on a CO2 sensor. That decision is taken in here. Temperature curves or batch curves in general, they are all entered in here. So for the temperature curve here you see before the animals arrive, you have 25, 28. When the animals arrive, you have 35 degrees, and then slowly decreases over the batch. And the same with the heat offset. You can do the batch curve again. So when you do an adjustment on the operation page, it's actually an offset to this. So if any offset is done compared to the strategic decision in here, you can see it in the user offset page. So as I showed you earlier, I made an adjustment to the temperature. You can clearly see here there's been an adjustment made. We are actually 0.5 degrees above my temperature curve as a strategic setting in here. So you can all the time go back. If you've been away for a weekend and someone else has managed the house, you can go in here and see if there's been some major adjustments that you need to know about. But again, curves are in here. We have humidity also. What should my humidity limit be? What should my humidification limit be? And how much is the maximum ventilation because of humidity? That's also set in here. And again, you could do offsets to that via the operation page. Air quality, again, been through that. Ventilation, maximum ventilation during the day. So you can define here, when the birds are very small, our maximum ventilation should be only 60%. And like that through the batch. The same with tunnel. You can also define here a minimum airspeeds, meaning I will not switch into tunnel until I can do a minimum of 0.6 meters per second at day 7, but at day 31, when the animals are larger and my temperature is lower, I want to make sure I can have no less than 1.3 meters per second when I switch into tunnel. Again, all this is strategic decision. That's all made in here. The same with the production. So the lights here, all the The curves, the light programs are programmed in here. And what you do from the operation page is an offset to that. The same with feeds, water, bird scales. All the strategic settings is in here. And again, here you have a use offset, so you can clearly see. In this case here, no, there's been no use offsets. My reference is 30 lux and the current value is 30 lux. So there's been no offsets made to that. We are completely on point regarding the strategic curves. So the operation page is where you do the changes according to the current batch or the current flock, the animals that's in the house right now. The strategy page is where you do the general changes to how you want to grow your animals. So this was a general introduction, and as I started up by saying, this is the broiler controller. Now I'd also like to just briefly show you the other types we have. Again, the foundation is the same, but there are some differences I would like to show you. This here is the Broiler-Breeder controller, and as you see, it looks slightly different from the broiler version. The broiler version had this big blue ventilation card here, because for broiler customers, it's very, very important to keep on track with temperature and ventilation. But for breeders, it's much more the programs that's in focus. So you see now the ventilation card is much smaller down here in the corner, and you have less information on it, but when you click it, all the information is completely the same. The air quality, humidity and temperature cards, they're slightly smaller, but again, they're completely the same. When you click them, they look exactly the same as in the broiler version. So in the broiler version, we had this small program card here in the middle. Now the program card has been given a lot of more attention. So here directly on the front, you can see the top 6 programs for the last 2 hours and the next 2 hours. So that has been given much more focus. And when you click it, again, it looks completely the same. Again, this is a breeder version, so we'll often have a lot more programs. So therefore, it can be nice to decide what programs do I actually want to see on the front. And you can just change the order here. So I would like to have some male feed on the top here, and male lifts, just as an example. And now they will be on the front. So you can decide these 6 programs on the front here. You can decide yourself what that should be. But other than that, in here it looks the same, but in this case we have a lot more programs than in the broiler version, and it works the same way. So again, and here in the breeder version, we have on the program card we have for females. So that means when you do mortality, inspection weight, it will be for females only. But when you change to the male tab here, we have all the targets here, mortality and so forth. That will be for males only. The layer version is completely like this, but of course not with sexed animals here. But otherwise it looks completely the same with the big production cards here. So there's subtle differences between the Broiler-Breeder and the layer version. Moving on to the pig version. Again, you see it looks very similar to the others, but there are subtle differences. The climate card here looks slightly different, but it contains again the same information. Difference here is though that when you have floor heating, it will appear on the front. Floor heating is very much used in pig production, so here we have direct access to the floor heating and the settings for the floor heating here. But other than that, it's very much the same. And again, the structure, how you navigate in the controller, strategy, report, so forth, is completely the same as with the broiler version. And that was it for now. Thank you very much for attention. I hoped really that this video helped you understand more about the BlueControl and how it works. You're very welcome to leave comments below the video here. I'll be happy to receive that. Thanks for now.